Hi, a very good evening to all of you. So this is our session number 13 in this program for SBI PO. Before I start the session, let's do a quick mic check. Type a yes in your YouTube chat window if you can hear me properly. Please do it. 5 or 7 yeses would do. So please type a yes if you can hear me properly. Varsha, good evening. Rite, good evening. Am I audible? Just say a quick yes and then we'll start. Dinesh, good evening. The wait is over. We are here. We are starting. Hi, Poonam. Good evening, Soni. Good evening, Bablu. Yes, I'm audible. So it seems that I'm audible to all of you. Wonderful. So no glitches and I'm audible. All right. I'm happy. So we start on a positive note today then. Alright, so this session is in continuation with our last session on percentage. As I told you last time as well, percentage and data interpretation are very closely related. In fact, all of data interpretation is very closely related to arithmetic. So though in the mains last year there were no, or I'll say not too many direct questions on arithmetic, there were a lot of questions on DI. It was very heavy on DI, and in fact there were few sets who were directly on some concepts of arithmetic. So that way it becomes very important. Last time I told you a concept of using proportions in arithmetic. In fact, it was percentage, so I asked you to use proportions. Now this is one concept that you need to get, all of you need to get if you want to do well, if you want to crack questions really fast when it comes to arithmetic. That's why I'm stressing on it. And I mean, before I start with the questions and all, I want to make it very clear that this session is not for anybody who has not done the previous session. Reason number one, I'll do those 8 questions that I had left last time, would not devote much time on it, just show you the solutions. The reason is that I might have a different approach than what you took in those 8 questions. I got a lot of correct answers. I'm really happy about it. A lot of people already said that I used your approach and I got the answers, but I'll still show you the solutions. Number 2, I mean, if you haven't done it or if you could not do a couple of questions, it'll help you there as well. And then we'll start with DI. But DI also, I'll not focus on calculations. No, I do not calculate. I'll focus on getting questions right without calculating. Even if it means that out of 15 questions or 20 questions, I'll leave a couple of questions. But believe me, most of the questions can be done without extensive calculations. And that's how I score better in DI than most people. Believe me, that's the way DI works. We'll see it here. I would expect you to be a little patient. Fine, I'll repeat all the stuff wherever you have a problem, wherever you think it's a new concept, I'll repeat. Somebody who does not get it even after repetition, I would request the person to go back to the video, or probably you can just leave the live stream and rewind and watch from there on. Because if I repeat 3 or 4 times, it'll be a waste of time for all of us. So my request would be, if you think you are a bit slow, you can just leave the live stream, rewind it from there itself. The YouTube gives you that functionality, and move forward only when the concept is clear. I do not repeat, or I would not repeat beyond a certain point, for the simple reason that I would be saying the same thing again and again. So it's no use. I'll repeat only if I think I can, explain in a slightly different manner that becomes understandable for everybody. I hope I have made myself amply clear. So we'll start with this first. I'll just take a couple of minutes and we'll explain that concept that I discussed last time, because a lot of people seem to have problems with that. Those who understand it find it amazing, wonderful. Those who do not understand it see a lot of problems. So I'll explain that concept very briefly in a couple of minutes. Those who understand, probably you will still gain something out of it. Those who do not, this is the last chance to understand this. If you have a problem in this video, please leave it, go back to the previous video and then come back to it again. I'll strongly recommend that. Fine, so we'll start with this. Anything else you have to say? शशांक, आपका नाम ले लिया मैंने. सर जी मेरा भी नाम लीजिए, आपका नाम भी ले लिया. All right, we'll start. Listen to it very carefully. Fine, last time we discussed reciprocals. So this is before I start with that actual 8 questions. Fine, last time we started with reciprocals. What is a reciprocal? I'll take a very simple example. Try and understand. 1 by 5. What is 1? Listen to it very carefully. I'm repeating it for the last time. 1 as a percentage of 5 is what? It's 20%. This is reciprocal and nothing else. It's no new concept. It's something that you have been doing for years. Now another way of writing this 1 by 5 here would be 20 by 100. What is 20 by 100? 20 by 100 is again 20%. Now 1 by 5 and 20 by 100 are same things, and they are very easy to understand that they are same. The problem comes when I have a percentage like 16.67%. Fine. What is it? 16.67% would be 16.67 upon 100. Fine. This is it. But I know that I'm sorry, I'll repeat. In fact, I was there on the screen, probably could not see anything. Just give me a moment. All right. Sorry. So I was saying that 1 by 5. What is 1 by 5? It is 20%. We can write this as 20 by 100 as well. This is again 20%. So all of you understand that this is not a problem with anybody. 1 by 5 is 20%, 20 by 100 is also 20%. This is reciprocals. Now look at a number like 1 by 6. 1 by 6 I know is 16.67% because I have mugged this up. I have memorized this number. Now how does this become handy for you? How do you use a number like this? This is important for me because if I write 16.67 by 100, isn't it a very difficult number to calculate or visualize mentally? 16.67 by 100 into something. For example, if I ask you to calculate 16.67% of 12, fine, listen to it very carefully. 16.67% of 12. There are two ways. One way would be that I write this 16.67 by 100 into 12. Look at this calculation. 16.67% of 12. It scares me. I don't know about you, but it scares me. I do not use a calculator. It scares me. Look at this calculation. 1 by 6 into 12. This gives me 2. Very simple. So that's the difference. If you know that 16.67% is this 1 by 6 only, you will just write 1 by 6 into 12 and you get the answer as 2. And that's where we use reciprocals. There is nothing special about it. For example, take 1 by 7. 1 by 7 is 14.28%. Last time also I told you. So if somebody says I have to calculate 14.28% of 49, fine. Look at this calculation. 14.28 upon 100 into 49. Looks very difficult to me. How do I do this? 1428 multiplied by 49. I cannot do it. I would not want to do it. What I do is, if I know this reciprocal 1 by 7, I'll just replace this calculation with this one. 1 by 7 into 49. So I immediately know that this becomes 7. I hope this is clear to everybody. There is absolutely no problem with this. 14.28% is 1 by 7. So the moment I see 14.28%, I'll replace it by 1 by 7 and get my answer. Now we can extend it by saying that 28.56% would be double of 1 by 7. Since 14.28 is 1 by 7, 28.56 becomes 2 by 7. And thereby continues the logic. So I have asked you to memorize the reciprocals up to 30 and their multiples. Not all the multiples, only those multiples would do that are there in maths app. So we have just put selected multiples there. If you do just those, they'll do. For example, 1 by 8 is 12.5%. All of you know that. Fine. It's again easy to calculate. 3 by 8 becomes 37.5. So you should also know that. And that's how it's important. So this is one part. I hope nobody would have a problem in this. Another thing. When I say something increases by 20%, something goes up by 20%, what does it mean? There are two ways of looking at it. One is that the initial number, let me write this as well, that the initial number was 100 and the final number becomes 120. So this is one way of looking at it when something increases by 20%. But now since I know that 20% is nothing but 1 by 5, what is 1 by 5? Look at, just try and understand this 1 by 5. 1 by 5 means 1 is 20% of 5 and nothing else. So whenever I have to assume numbers like this, I'll just think of the initial value as 5 and the final value as 6. What it means is that when the number was not increased, it was 5. I increased it by 20%. What is 20% of 5? It is 1. It means I'll add 1 to it. So 5 plus 1, it becomes 6. Simple है बिल्कुल, इसमें कोई भी problem नहीं हो सकती किसी को. अब what I do directly in all such cases is that when somebody tells me that something increases by 20%, I use proportions directly. So in a way, what I do is, let's say area of a square is A and you get to know that the area increases by 20%. 20% increase means an increase of 1 unit over 5 units. So what I'll take the final area is A into 6 by 5, or I can also write it as A into 1.2. both of them are same things, a into 1.2 or a into 6 by 5. Ekdam same hai, but I prefer this 6 by 5 in most of the cases using proportions. Now extending it a little further, because 20% is easier to look at this number 16.67. I already told you that this is 1 by 6. Now what I do generally is that if somebody tells me that cost price of something goes up by 16.67%, what I do is that I assume in my mind, just mentally, that the cost price was 6, and since it increases by 16.67%, it means 1 unit over every 6 units. 6 यूनिट पे, हर 6 यूनिट पे 1 यूनिट बढ़ रही है. तो अगर मैंने उसका कॉस्ट प्राइस 100 की जगह 6 अज्यूम किया, तो उसका जो फाइनल कॉस्ट प्राइस हो जाएगा वो 7 हो जाएगा. इसका सिर्फ यही मतलब है और कुछ भी मतलब नहीं है. हमने जितने भी क्वेश्चंस यूज किए, वी जस्ट यूज दिस and nothing else. There is no rocket science in this. So the moment I say 14.28% increase, 14.28% increase means an increase of 1 unit over every 7 units. It means if it was 7 initially, it's 8 now. I hope I have made myself clear. I'll start with the questions now and let's see how we apply this. Okay, let's move forward. Let's look at this question now. This is the question that I gave you. It's a very simple one. In fact, it would not even use that technique. I just wanted to tell you how we, at times, in fact, all the time we should avoid all those calculations, lengthy calculations, and think in the simplest manner possible. A lot of you gave me the answer. I'm sure all of you know how to do it. But let's look at it in a very simple way. Since the price of apples goes down by 20%, 20% का change हुआ है apple के price में. A man can now buy 2 apples more in rupees 40. So that man is spending rupees 40 only. अगर उसने ज़्यादा had the man not bought 2 apples more, how much would he have spent? He would have spent 80% of 40. Why 80% of 40? Because the apple's price goes down by 20%. 20% means that earlier if he was spending rupees 40, now he'll spend just 80% of it. 100% minus 20% becomes 80%. Don't ask me ye kaise aaya. Fine, it means that he would have spent only rupees 32 had he bought the initial quantity only and not increased the quantity. But what he chose to do instead was that he spent rupees 40 only, and in these 8 rupees, the 8 rupees that he used to buy apples, he bought 2 apples. It means that according to the new price, he could buy 2 apples here in 8 rupees. This is it. So this is the new price. So it means that the new price would be rupees 4 per apple. This is simple now. If the new price is rupees 4 per apple, I have not made any equations or anything. I need to tell them what was the original price of 1 apple. Now the price has gone down by 20%. Again, look at proportions. If something goes down by 20%, again just remember this, 20% means what? 20% is 1 by 5. If something goes down by 20%, it means that it becomes 4 by 5 of itself. Why? Because 1 unit is reduced from every 5 units. So if the initial price was P and now it becomes 20% less, the final price would be 4 by 5P. The thing is that we generally don't write this P and all and work with proportions, which in this case would be 4 by 5. So how would I work on this? The new prices, look, all of you know how to calculate this. I'm just telling you how to do it directly. The new price is rupees 4 per apple, but this is the price after reducing it by 20%. So 20% reduction means it became 80% of the price. So what is the original price? It will be 4 into 5 by 4. जब कम करना होता, अगर मेरे पास फाइनल प्राइस होता, अगर मेरे पास इनिशियल प्राइस होता और मुझे कम करना होता, मैं उसको 4 by 5 से मल्टीप्लाई करता. एकदम उसका मैंने उल्टा किया है. अब मेरे पास फाइनल प्राइस है, तो मैं इनिशियल प्राइस पे जाने के लिए क्या करूंगा? उसको 5 by 4 से मल्टीप्लाई कर दूंगा. एंड व्हाट डू आई गेट हियर? 5. सो द इनिशियल प्राइस ऑफ एप्पल इन दिस केस इज rupees 5 per piece. I think this is clear to everybody. I'll move forward and do all these questions very quickly now. Okay, look at this one. This was a very important one. I got a lot of correct answer. Most of you could do this, but I wanted to explain this question for a very simple reason. It's a very simple question. I mean, if you look at length, all of you already, I think, even if you're not done mensuration, all of you already know that volume of a, if it's a room, it's a cuboid. So volume of a cuboid is length into width into height. Fine. So this is the volume of a cuboid. Fine. So when I'm talking about the volume of a cuboid, I'm saying that the length goes up by 20%. So let's call this V1, the initial volume. Fine. What I need to calculate is the percentage change in the volume of the room, and let's call this V2, the final volume. So what is actually happening is this. Fine. If my length initially was L, now it would be L into, now it's an increase of 25%. 25% is 1 by 4. 1 by 4, it means for every 4 units you will add 1 unit. 4 plus 1 is 5. What would you write here? L into 5 by 4. Likewise for width, width goes up by 60%. So if this is initial width, this becomes the final length. The final width would be W into 60% is what? 20% is 1 by 5. So 60% would be 3 by 5. So it's an addition of 3 units for every 5 units. So it becomes width into 8 by 5. Please remember, you could have written 160 by 100 in place of 8 by 5, but we use reciprocals. That's the use of reciprocals. So this becomes W into 8 by 5. And for height, what is it? Height goes down by 20%. So if again it's 20%, 20% is what? 1 by 5. 1 unit change, negative change, 1 unit goes down for every 5 units. So what is the new proportion now? 4 by 5. So this becomes H into 4 by 5. Fine. This 5 by 4, 4 by 5 gets cancelled. L, W, H some same hai pehle se hi. So if you compare these two, the only difference would be this factor of 8 by 5 here and nothing else. L, W, H remains the same. So basically what I am trying to tell you here is this ratio here is not important at all. You may calculate, you may take assumptions, do whatever. Had this ratio been 17:5:12, this would have, the answer would still have remained the same. This is point number 1 in this question, so that's not important. So had I not given you the ratio, you would still calculate the same answer. So this is just to confuse you, just to waste your time. It's about concepts. If the concept is clear, you would understand that this is not really required. Number 2, even this thing is not required. Fine. So how do I do questions like this? For 25%, I'll write 5 by 4. I hope all of you understand why this 5 by 4. For 60%, I'll write 8 by 5. For 20% decrease, I'll write 4 by 5. And I get this cancelled. An overall proportion increase of 8 by 5. What is 8 by 5 here? An increase of 3 units over 5 units. 3 over 5. What is 1 by 5? 20%. Then what is 3 by 5? 60%. So what is my answer then? 60%. But would I do even this much? No. What you should realize immediately after seeing the question is that this 25% would get cancelled with this 20% decrease. This is an increase of 25%. An increase of 25% is something becoming 5 by 4. Fine. And this is a decrease in 20% here. A decrease in 20% means something becoming 4 by 5 of the initial value. 4 by 5, 5 by 4. They would cancel each other. It means that this 25% up and 20% down cancel each other. If they cancel each other, my answer would always be this 60%. So for example, if I change the values here, change this ratio I already told you is not important. If I change this 60% to 80%, my answer would become 80%. Because these 25% up and 20% down are already cancelling each other. One is 5 by 4 and another is 4 by 5. So that's the important part in this question. So the moment you see this and you realize that 25 and 20 cancel each other, one is up, other is down, and ratio anyway is unimportant, whatever is this width change becomes the answer. So had this width change been, width goes down by let's say 19.2%, 19.2 you do not know what the reciprocal is. The answer becomes width, if width goes down by 19.2%, the volume goes down by 19.2%. Very simple. इसमें और कुछ भी नहीं करना है. This is it in the question. So anybody else who used any other approach should remember this. Another thing, if this 25% here had been let's say 20%, just listen to it very carefully, and this had been 16.67. I hope you realize which values I am talking about. This 20% down becomes 16.67% down, and this 25% up becomes 20% up. Again no effect. Why? 20% up you know would cancel 16.67% down. 20% up kitna hota hai? You know reciprocals, it's 6 by 5 proportion. And what is 16.67% down? It's 5 by 6 proportion. So 6 by 5 into 5 by 6 cancelled. Whatever is the answer, whatever is the change in width becomes the final change in the volume. So that's why I wanted to explain it to you. I'll move to the next question. If there is somebody, I'm again telling you, if there is somebody who at this point feels that he has not understood this, my very sincere request is, please go back, watch it again, please go and watch percentage 1. You would not understand much beyond this point. I'm telling you very frankly, very honestly. Fine. Let's move forward and look at this now. This is again a simple question. I don't think many of you would have a problem here. It's a 30% hike in bus fare. How do you write a 30% hike? 10% is 1 by 10, 30% is 3 by 10, a hike in 30%. So what is the proportion that you would write here? Now I hope all of you understand this. 30% hike, how do you represent it? 13 by 10. Fine. Resulted in a 16.67. What is this? I have been telling you time and again, this is 1 by 6. A 16.67% fall. So a fall in the proportion of 1 by 6. So what is the resultant here? A fall of 1 by 6 means 5 by 6. Fine. Resulted in a 6.67% fall in the passenger traffic. Fine. How do you get daily collection? So it's it's fare which has been represented by this 13 by 10 and the fall and the product of fall. So what is the fall like? 5 by 6. So you represent that fall of 16.67% by this proportion of 5 by 6 and an hike in bus fare in 13 by 10. You multiply these two because bus fare into passenger traffic would give you the collection. Fine. So this is bus fare, let's call it F, and this is passenger traffic, so this is T. इन्हीं का प्रोडक्ट जो होगा वही आपको डेली कलेक्शन देगा ना. तो अगर आप इन दोनों को मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं, whatever you get, अब यहाँ पर ये क्या बोल रहा है? This, if you multiply these two, this becomes 5, this is 2, this becomes what? 13 by 12. What it means is this 13 by 12 change in collection here means that if the earlier collection was 12 units, now it becomes 13 units. Why? Because collection is dependent on just two entities. One entity is this fare which went up by 30%. Another entity is this traffic which went down by 16.67. Had the traffic not changed, the fare, the percentage change in bus fare would have been the percentage change in collection. So this 13 by 10 here simply would have come here and the collection would have increased by 30%. But the fare went up, but some part of it was offset by the passenger traffic that went down. What some part? It was 30% hike here and 16.67% fall. So what is the exact one? You already know it will be some 12, 13, 14%, something like that. What is it now? This 13 by 12 means that it's 1 unit over every 12 units. I'm writing it again. Fine. 1 over 12 is what? You again, if you remember your reciprocals, you know this. So this is 8.33%. What it means is, though I have not asked this in this question particularly, this is an increase of 8.33% in the daily collection. I have written this because I wanted to explain you reciprocals. Otherwise, this is not required. What does the question say now? I know that the increase is in the proportion of 13 by 12. The daily collection at the bus depot still increases by rupees 70. अब देखो इधर देखो, this 13 by 12 is an increase of what? 1 here. Fine. So this 1 here, assume it like that. Had the collection been 12 earlier, the new collection would be 13. So the change would be of 1 unit. So when the change, this is unitary system which you studied in 7th standard. Fine. So I'll look at it like this. When the change is 1 unit in fare collected, what is the new collection? 13 rupees. If the change is this 70, this is the change, na? No, it increases by 70. So what is the change in the total fare? It would be 13 into 70. And how much is this? 910 rupees. So that's your final answer. What do you do here? Look, whoever says 840 did most of it correct but messed up at the final stage. Had I asked you the previous collection, this 12 factor, then it would have been 840. I am asking you the new collection. So look at it like this. Earlier the collection was 12, an increase in 1 unit of collection, it becomes 13. But what was happening was this, earlier collection was 840, it increases by 70 and becomes 910. So had I asked you earlier collection, you would have in this unitary system replaced this 13 by 12 and would have arrived at 840. So I hope this is understood to all now. I'll move forward and look at the this is I think was question number 4. Let's do it a bit more quickly because the agenda today is DI, though we'll be using all of these things in DI as well. Due to a reduction in the price of oranges by 30%, a reduction in the price of oranges by 30%, 30% reduction means what do I write here? 7 by 10. Now I should get this. A person can buy 12 more oranges in the same amount. Fine. In the same amount means that the person does not change the expenditure. How does it happen? If this is 7 by 10, this is 10 by 7, then only the expenditure remains the same. What is this thing? This is change in price. What is the proportion change? It becomes 7 by 10. So it means that the quantity change would be 10 by 7. जब मेरा प्राइस कम हुआ, मैं क्वांटिटी बढ़ाऊंगा, तभी मेरा एक्सपेंडिचर सेम रहेगा ना, राइट? So in what proportion does quantity change? Quantity, if earlier was 7, now becomes 10. So what is the change in quantity here? 3 units. Let's make it simple. We did not use any algebra, any x's, y's, nothing. So change in quantity is 3. Fine. So if the change in quantity is 3, what is he asking? Find the original number of mangoes he used to buy. So when the change in quantity is 3, what is the original number of mangoes he was buying? It was 7. Again we are using unitary system. Had the change in quantity been 1, how many mangoes? 7 by 3. Now we know that the change in quantity is 12. So the answer would be 12 into 7 by 3. And how much is this? I think this is what, 28? That's your answer. Now I have just shown it to you. Do not do this 3, 1, 12. बच्चे नहीं हो ना आप. So the moment you see this, 3 पे कितना डिफरेंस है? 7 पे है. 7 का है तो 12 पे कितना डिफरेंस होगा? 28 का होगा. 3 पे डिफरेंस अगर 7 का है तो 12 के लिए what would you do directly? 12 into 7 by 3. It becomes 28 and that's your answer for this question. Let's move forward and look at the next one. Okay, I think I messed up the fruit in the last question. Whatever the fruit was just one fruit. So I hope all of you understand that. I am also human. I make mistakes and you make me nervous by saying that सर आप जल्दी भाग रहे हो. Fine, तो गलतियाँ कर देता हूँ मैं थोड़ी बहुत. चलो इसको देखते हैं. Fine. Again a very important question, a very stereotype question. All of you should know how to do it very quickly. It's slightly important in the sense that you need to understand what he is trying to say. Fresh grapes contain 75% water by weight. किसी भी फ्रूट में there are just two components. What are the two components? One would be pulp, another would be water. So if it's not mentioned explicitly, fine, think of it like this. So if I'm saying fresh grapes contain 75% water by weight, so this is 75% water. So what would be the percentage of pulp in this fresh grapes here? It would be 25%. I'm just writing here very clearly just to explain it to you very quickly. A person dries some quantity of fresh grapes in the sun. उसने उसको ड्राई किया तो उसका पानी उड़ेगा. फाइन. इफ यू ड्राई समथिंग इन द सन, वाटर इवेपोरेट्स बट देयर इज नो डिफरेंस इन द पल्प एंड दैट्स हाउ थिंग्स आर ड्राइड. नाउ ही इज लेफ्ट विथ 3.2 kg of dried grapes. Why did this weight reduce? This weight must have reduced. Why? Because the water evaporated. The water evaporated, the pulp remains the same, and because of the decrease in the quantity of water, the overall quantity also goes down, which have only 37.5% water content. Fine. So the scenario is like this, that the total quantity that's there with him now is 3.2 kg of dried grapes. Fine. So that's what's there with him currently, 3.2 kg of dried grapes. But these dried grapes have only 37.5% of water content. I'll use proportions, reciprocals here. What is this 37.5? I told you, I mean probably I'm telling you for the 10th time in the last two sessions that this is 3 by 8. So the water content here is 3 by 8. If water content here is 3 by 8, what is the content of the pulp here? The pulp would be 5 by 8. 3 by 8 plus 5 by 8 is 1. So this 5 by 8 is the pulp. We are just talking in proportions. So 5 by 8 pulp means 62.5% pulp. Don't get confused. Just remember this 5 by 8. So out of this 3.2 kilogram of dried grapes, the quantity of pulp is 5 by 8. Can I just write it down separately? So my pulp here is 3.2 into 5 by 8. Do you know what this is? 8 into 4 is 32. Fine, if you write it like this, but this is 0.4 because a decimal place is there and this becomes 2. Fine. So what you know now is that in this second type of grapes, the dried grapes, the total quantity of pulp is 2 kilogram. Though you do not do it like that, but I am showing you stepwise, you do it directly. Now if this is 2 kilogram, how much did I just say is the quantity or is the proportion of pulp in the fresh grapes? Pulp in the fresh grapes is just 25%. Why? Because 75% is water. Now if there is 2 kilograms of pulp, what should be the quantity of the fresh grapes in which there is 2 kilograms of pulp? It has to be 4 times of that. So if this is 8 kilograms, the total quantity of grapes, then only the quantity of the pulp would be 2 kilograms. That's 25%, and that's how we get the answer. How do I do it mentally? How do I do it mentally? The moment I look at this 3.2, the number that comes to my mind is along with this 37.5 is 3 by 8. I reverse 3 by 8, I get 5 by 8. So what I do mentally is 3.2 into 5 by 8 and I multiply it by 4, I get 8 kilograms. You do all this absolutely mentally if you just practice it a bit. But it should click to you that 37.5 means 3 by 8. 3 by 8 subtracted from 1 gives you 5 by 8. And that gives you the answer in this case. So that's a very important stereotype question. You get it in all the forms, grapes, watermelons and whatnot. Just keep this in mind. You might get it in the exam. I'm not saying आएगा ही आएगा, आ सकता है. बहुत ही stereotype standard question है. ये देखिए, इसको मैं करना भी नहीं चाहता. It's a very simple question. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. The only thing that you do in this is that what is it? Chris scored 85 marks. So the marks of 5 students are given here. Chris scored 85, and then you can find the marks of Jack, Mike, Monica, Chris, and who all is there? Matt is there. So basically you get a list of all the 5 marks of students, and if I remember it right, Matt had probably scored 139 if my memory serves me right, and the test is of 200 marks. So ultimately it boils down to this calculation, which gives you 69.5%. So there was nothing special in this question. It's just a lengthy question. Questions like this come, should not waste too much time. So there's no special trick involved in this. Do it by whatever method you do it. All of you would get the answer right. Let me move to the next one. Now this is important. Why I put it here is that as I understand this, bank exams generally do not have any kind of questions on set theory. But this is a simple one which does not require set theory, and you can do it absolutely easily by just using common sense. Look at it, what it says. There is a get together, right? 60% people had rice in that get together. 60% people of whatever people were there, fine. 50% people had chapati. So 60% had rice, 50% had chapati. We do not know if some had both, and we do not know if some had neither. Let's move forward. 40% had both rice and chapati, fine. Look at this. If 60% here had rice and 40% here had both rice and chapati, how many percent people would be there who would have only rice? Only common sense, forget set theory. It would be 20%, 60% rice, 40% both rice and chapati. It means 40% तो उसमें वो थे ना जिन्होंने दोनों चीजें खाई. So how many percentage, what percentage of people are there who had just rice? It will be 20%. Likewise, do it with this part. 50% had chapati. So 50 minus 40 is 10. It means 10% people are there who had only chapati. Fine. Now come to this third part, 40%. What is this 40%? These are the people who had both the things. Fine. 20 plus 10 plus 40. What is this? 70%. Now what is this 70%? 70%, this number 70% includes all those people who had either only rice or only chapati or both rice and chapati. What is the only category left now? इसमें वो लोग शामिल हैं जिन्होंने सिर्फ राइस खाया, इसमें वो लोग शामिल हैं जिन्होंने सिर्फ चपाती खाई, इसमें वो लोग भी शामिल हैं जिन्होंने दोनों चीजें खाई. कितने कितने मिला के हैं? 20, 10, 40, 70%. तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? 30% लोग ऐसे हुए, परसेंटेज का मतलब 100 में से ही है ना, 30% लोग ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने दोनों ही चीजें नहीं खाई. So this is answer in terms of percentage. Very simple concept. The moment you see it, you get the answer in 5 seconds. Fine. But in this case, it's written that this 30% here is 39. If 30% here is 39, he is asking what was the total number of people present at the party. Again, unitary system, if you do not still understand it, 30% is 39. Fine. What is 100% then? I'm just using this common sense, 7th grade mathematics. If this is 39, 39 by 30 into 100. How much is this? 130. I just use unitary system, simple basic mathematics. I do not do complex calculations. If 30% is equal to 39, what is 100%? What is 100%? 100% is the total population who were there at the get together. 30% is 39, so 100% becomes 130. That's my answer to this question. Alright, I hope all of you understand this. Let's move forward, and this was the last one. I gave you this on purpose because at times, even for people like me who are very comfortable with arithmetic and all, the moment they see some variables and constants, they get stumped. मेरे को भी अच्छा नहीं लगता है, honestly. But look at this carefully. What does it say? Just एक बार पढ़ लेते हैं. Let's look at this question. A square percent of B. When you calculate, let's say 7% of something, 7% of X, how do I write it? 7 by 100 into X. That's how I write it. So if I have to calculate A square percent of B, how do I write it? A square by 100 into B. fine, this is equal to something. But the thing is, when it's everything in terms of percentages, let me just explain, just remove this part from me. Okay, when everything is in percentage, let me just write this part as well. B cube percent of C, so this is B cube by 100 into C, fine. If you solve this, you get the first stage would be A square B is equal to B cube C, fine. But since I know that this 100 would appear here and here, do I need to write it? Do I actually need to write it? So since this is not school where you were given marks to do the rough work, I will give you marks, extra marks if you do not do any rough work. This is redundant, this is not required, this sign here is not required, this is not required, this 100 is not required. The moment I see this, I know that A square of B means A square भी multiply होगा, B भी multiply होगा, 100 तो सभी में आना है, cancel हो जाएगा, let's remove 100. So the moment I see this, what I'll write directly is A square of B would be this is equal to B cube C, fine. What do I write this thing as? This is C raised to the power 4 A is equal to B percent of B would be nothing but B square. This is it. Just substitution and nothing else is required. So what you know is that C raised to the power 4 is equal to B square by A here, and in this case this reduces to A square upon B square is equal to C. Just equate them, you will get the answer. Let me do it for you. So it means that if I look at this, A raised to the power 8 upon B raised to the power 8 is equal to C raised to the power 4. And what is C raised to the power 4 from here? This is B square A, fine. ये C raised to the power 4 का तो कोई use ही नहीं है यहाँ पर अब. So it means that this A comes here and becomes A raised to the 9 is equal to B raised to the power 10. So this is as simple a question as you could have got in this exam. There is nothing else that you could have done wrong here. I mean, it's a very simple question, 30-40 seconds, not more than that. The reason why I gave you this question is the moment you see this A, B, C, D and all these exponents, large exponents, just don't leave this question and walk away. Fine, just give it 10-15 seconds, read it, probably it becomes simple. I'll also tell you some stuff about algebra, I mean some basic stuff about algebra, though it's not required much in this exam, wherein you can substitute using numbers and do it easily. Fine, so this is it for percentage. We are moving to DI. I'll tell you a few important stuff. This is the first session in DI. We'll do 2-3 sets. They are based loosely on what we got in SBI PO mains last year. Fine, so I'm showing you a data set here. Now, just look at this, spend 30 seconds on there and just see if you can understand that data set. Look at this. This is the data set in front of you. It is based on a question. I don't know if it's exactly the same. I have made certain questions on this. So I got some random data about what appeared in the paper last year. It's based on that. Just look at this and tell me what you understand by this. Just take half a minute here. So that's the set here in front of you. Tell me what it is about. It's a very simple set, no problems with the set. In fact, I'll do missing DI as well today. I mean, a lot of people scared with missing DI. Nothing special, I found it there. Anamika, yes, finally we are doing DI, but what I was discussing was also very, very important. You will realize that I do all DI by using arithmetic only. Fine, so I think all of you have already seen that this is about a man's salary, fine, of which, as we are told here, are 3 components. So he spends some part of the salary on transport, some part on EMI, and the rest is savings. Since nothing else is given to us, you can safely assume here that his salary is just goes into 3 things, either transport or EMI. So paying for the transport, paying for the EMI, and rest all is saved. Fine. So rule number 1 in DI, whatever is given is to be assumed. So you might find it very stupid. So these are the 2 expenses and rest all is savings. So it is. Fine. If it sounds stupid, it is stupid. But these are the 3 components of his salary. Fine. So this is learning number 1 here. We are given data for 5 years, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So these are 5 years. This is a kind of, what do I call it? This can be called a column graph, a bar graph, a stacked bar graph, whatever you call it. I'm not interested in the numbers. What it shows is that if you look at this line here, this is 100%. It means that if you look for 2011 and you look at this mark here is 40. Fine, this is 40. And this blue thing here is given as transport. It means that this transport percentage here for 2011 would be slightly less than 40. Now, if you look at this carefully, I am just explaining it once to you. This mark is 20 and this is divided into 5 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It means that this every part here would be of 4 units. So, if I talk about this part here, this part, so this would be 24, this should be 28, this should be 32, 36 and this is 40, and it goes like this for all of them. We are just understanding this one. I don't know how many of you understand this. If you do not, then understand it now. Now, if you look at this mark, this blue mark here, this is slightly below 40 and above 36, of course, this is 36 mark. What does it look like? It looks like 39 here. For example, look at this. What does it look like? It is slightly above 40. So it looks like 41, and that's how you arrive at the exact numbers. For example, if I look at, let's say, this mark, what does it look like? It looks like, where is 20? This is 20. Where is 40? This is 40. And where is it? It's exactly in between. So what is this mark? This is 30. So basically what it means is that for 2015, this guy spent 30% of his salary on transport expenses. Why transport? Because transport is blue. Likewise for this red or maroon, whatever this color is, this is for EMI, and the last one is for savings. That's what the data tells us. The data is given to us for 5 years. So for all the 5 years, for each of these 5 years, we are given the breakup of his complete salary, since this goes up to 100%. I hope this data is clear to all of you. I'll show you the first question. Tell me what the answer would be. I'll tell you probably, I just hope I'll be able to tell you a better method of doing it. So I'm just erasing the screen here, make it slightly neater for you. That's the question there on your screen now. Give me the answer now. Read it, give me the answer. I'll discuss it after half a minute. Aman will do close test. Concentrate on this now. I do not understand why you guys do this. Please concentrate on what we are doing for now. We'll do everything. We can chat after this. Stop posting anything in the chat box. That's spam for me at the moment. Concentrate on this. Let others work. A lot of you are saying D. I do not understand why. Okay, a lot of you are saying D cannot be determined. Why cannot it be determined? This is surprising. C, some are saying C, 8/7. Sony says option C. Give me more answers. Anybody else? Somebody is trying to calculate this. How are you doing it? आप calculate करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो? क्या कर रहे हो? What? We are talking about 2 years here. 2012, which is this bar, and we are talking about 2015 here, which is this bar. So these are the two bars that I am talking about. The savings in 2012 and 2015, which are savings. So savings is this here, this green part, and savings here is this part. And what we need to calculate is the ratio of EMI expenses in the year 2012 and 15. What is EMI expenses? EMI expenses here would be this part, and here it is this part. 8:7. Suresh says none of these, it should be 7/4. Somebody calculated it, E. Now I have started, I can see some correct answers. Deepak says E, Tejinder says E, a lot of people. Reena, I will make you understand, don't worry. If you know this, attempt it, otherwise don't worry, I'm going to understand it. Okay, cannot be determined. Can we discuss this now? So let's talk about what the data is. The savings in 2012 and 2015 are in the ratio 7:5. एक बार के लिए उसके earnings को assume कर लेते हैं for 2012 to be X and for 2015 to be Y. Fine. What percentage is this? If you look at savings in 2012 में savings कितना percent लगता है? This green part is approximately 19%. I don't think anybody would have a problem with this. So this is 19/100 into X. I am talking about savings in 2012, 19/100 X. Fine. If X is the total salary or the salary in 2012. Fine. What is the salary in 2015? We have assumed it to be Y. What is this green line here? This starts above, this is 60, this is 64, 65. So this is 35. So this is 35% of the salary for 2015. So this is 35/100 Y. So this is it. In a very basic term, I am not telling you any shortcut, I am just trying to explain to you the meaning of this question, then we will discuss about this shortcut. Fine. So the expenses, the savings in 2012 is 19/100X, where X is the salary in 2012, and 35/100Y, where Y is the salary in 2015. What is he saying now? The savings in 12 and 15 are in the ratio 7:5. So what he tells me is that 19/100X upon 35/100Y is equal to 7/5. Fine, this is given to me. So it means that I can calculate the ratio of X is to Y as well very easily. This is very clear from this. If I know this, I can calculate the ratio of X is to Y. Now since I can calculate the ratio of X is to Y, what I can also do is that since he is asking me the ratio of EMI expenses in the year 2012 and 15, what is EMI? This number is again given to me. This is how much? This is 40%. So basically this would be 40% of X. And what is the EMI expense in 2015? Look at this bar. This is how much? This is 65. So this is 30%. So this is 30% of Y. Fine. So now when you have got the ratio of X is to Y, you can obviously calculate 40% of X upon 30% of Y and you will get your answer. So one thing is that it cannot be determined. You can definitely calculate the answer. It might take some time, but it cannot be determined because of all this calculation. You know this, this box, this is given as the information. Once you know this, you know the ratio of X is to Y. I have not calculated on purpose because you can do it yourself. With a simple one, you can do it. I am not here to tell you how to calculate X into Y here. But now since you have got X is to Y and you have to calculate EMI, the ratio of EMI, mind it, not the exact EMI, the ratio of the EMI, you can calculate it by using this thing. EMI in 2012 is 40% of the salary, so it becomes 40% of X. And here is 30% of the salary, it becomes 30% of Y. It may be 31, I do not know, I am not interested in the exact numbers. So that's one way of doing it, using which you arrive at the answer, which some of you are saying, how are you arriving at 8:7? I do not understand. A lot of people have already said it's none of these. It's none of these, I do not know the exact answer, neither am I interested in the exact answer. Now I am trying to explain to you, listen to it very carefully, how do you do it without using any calculation or without using any calculator or you know, without breaking your head over this. This can be done very, very beautifully if you just see through a few things here. I am just clearing the screen for you. Look at this. Just compare this bar with this bar. Fine. So this is 2012 savings versus 2015 savings. Listen to it very carefully. This is the core of all DI. I score well in DI using these techniques only. I do not write all that which I just wrote for you. That's not to be done. Fine. What is this much? If you look at this, this ratio is 7:5. But this bar here, this bar, it's a smaller bar. We already know what this is. This is around 20%. Now I will not go to 19 and all. I just do not want to think about it. What I know is that this looks around 20. Fine, 20% of his salary for 2012. And what does it look like? This is much bigger. Fine, this is much bigger. How much bigger? This looks like 40% of salary. मतलब ये double जैसा उसका लग रहा है. Despite this fact, the ratio of these two is 7:5. मतलब आप समझ रहे हो क्या हो रहा है? 20% of this 2012 number is bigger than 40% of this 2015 number. 20% of this 2012 number is bigger, ऐसे ले लेते हैं एक बार को लिए मैं इसको x लिख लेता हूं जिससे आपको कंफ्यूजन ना हो. So x is the salary for 2012 and y is the salary for 2015. So what is happening is this is approximately 20%. 20% of x is bigger than 40% of y. Yes or no? Why bigger? Because the ratio is 7:5. So not bigger, bigger by a good margin. Again 40%. Fine. So this is bigger. Now if you look at this, by what percentage should it be bigger? Since 20% of x is greater than 40% of y and that too by some good margin, had we compared it with 20% of y, it would have been at least double. जब इसका x का 20% ही इसके 40% से बड़ा है, तो अगर मैं 20% को x के इसके 20% से कंपेयर करता y के, तो ये बहुत ही बड़ा आता, डबल से भी बड़ा आता. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि x की वैल्यू y से कम दो गुनी बड़ी है. x has to be at least twice of y. It means that the salary in 2012 is at least double of the salary in 2015. Sorry, it means that the salary in 2012, which we have assumed to be x, is double of the salary in 2015. What it means is that now I can answer this question, the question that is asked directly. First, you need to understand that when I am comparing the salaries of 2012 and 15, I am using this statement here. This statement here, how 20% of x is greater than 40% of y, approximate values only. Fine. It means that 20% of x, since 20% of x is greater than 40% of y, 20% of x would be at least twice of 20% of y. अगर ये वैल्यू कुछ भी है, यहाँ पर ये वैल्यू 100 है, फाइन, और ये भी लेट्स से बस मार्जिनली छोटा है, ये भी 100 है, तो इसका 20% तो 50 हो जाएगा ना. तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि 20% ऑफ x कम से कम डबल होगा 20% ऑफ y का. If 20% of x is at least double of 20% of y, it means x has to be at least double of 20 x has to be double of y. If 20% of x is double of 20% of y, x has to be double of y. Fine. Can you arrive at this conclusion? Now, if you can arrive at this conclusion, it can be done very simply. Just look at this. Look at this. What is he asking? What is the ratio of EMI expenses in the year 2012 and 2015? Where is EMI? This red part is EMI. Fine. Compare the two red parts. If you compare the two red parts, this red part is bigger than this red part. Though we know the exact numbers. This is around 40 and this is around 30. But even if they had been equal, had these two red parts been equal, fine. Just look at this. We already established that x is greater than 2y. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि उसकी जो 2012 की सैलरी थी वो कम से कम उसकी 2015 की सैलरी से दोगुनी ज़्यादा थी, कम से कम. अगर ये उसकी दोगुनी ज़्यादा थी एंड इसी सैलरी का 40% जो है वो EMI एक्सपेंस है और इस सैलरी का जो 30% है वो उसका यहाँ पर EMI एक्सपेंस है. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि ऐसा तो कोई आंसर हो ही नहीं सकता ना. अब अगर आप ए देखोगे, ए मीन्स दैट EMI एक्सपेंस for 2012 is less than the EMI expense for 2015, which is not possible. EMI expense for this is 8:9. It means that it's again smaller than EMI expense for 2015. Again not possible. Vikash, don't do that stupidity. If you do not understand, please leave. What does that mean? I'm just trying to explain that to you. Look at it again. These are the two values, fine, for 2012 and 2015. Let's assume it to be x and this is y. I have already told you the conventional method of doing this. You can do it like that. I do not have any problem. You will just waste 2, 3, 4 minutes here. I'm just trying to explain to you how you can do it very quickly, very nicely, very elegantly in 10-15 seconds if you can just see through the data. इसको एक बार फिर से देखिए. आपको पता है कि जो सेविंग्स है 2012 की वो 2015 की सेविंग से ज़्यादा है, बिकॉज 2012 में सेविंग अगर 7 है तो 2015 की जो सेविंग है वो 5 है. इज इट ओके? सेविंग्स इन 2012 आर मोर देन सेविंग्स इन 2015. इज इट ओके विद एवरीबडी? आई होप यस. फाइन. नाउ लुक एट दिस ग्रीन पार्ट हियर. दिस पार्ट इज स्मॉलर. व्हाट इज दिस पार्ट मीन? दिस सेज दैट दिस इज अराउंड 20% एंड दिस इज अराउंड 40%. इसका मतलब यही है ना, दिस इज अराउंड 20 एंड दिस इज अराउंड 40. So basically what I'm saying is 20% of x, I am again using approximate values because I do not want to waste time counting if it's 19 or 20. 20% of x is greater than 40% of y. I'll ask you at every step. Do you understand this step? 20% of x is greater than 40% of y. Is it okay? Please type a yes. I would understand. I would proceed. I want you to understand this. 20% of x, x is the salary for 2012 and y is the salary for 2015. I have used these numbers because I want to make you understand, otherwise we would not use in the exam. 20% of x is greater than 40% of y. All of you can understand that? Okay, yes, no? Okay, 20% of x is greater than 40% of y. It means, can I say, if this is 20% of x is greater than 40% of y, what is 20%? This is x by 5. इसको मेरे को एकदम बेसिक स्टेप में आपको समझाना पड़ेगा. This is 2y by 5. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? इसका मतलब हुआ x की वैल्यू is at least twice of y. Now can you understand this step? Please type a yes. That earlier yes is okay. Please tell me if this second step is okay. 20% of x is greater than 40% of y. Can you understand that x would be at least twice of y? The second step, 20% of x is greater than 40% of y is fine, but can you understand that x has to be at least twice of y? Right? Okay. 20% of x is greater than 40% of y is fine with everybody, fine. But what does this mean for you? This means for you that the value of x has to be at least twice of y, fine. It means, can I say that x is greater than 2y? कितना ग्रेड है हम इसकी बात अभी नहीं कर रहे, बस इतने से ही मेरा काम चल जाएगा. If I know this, I know that x is at least double of y. बस हो गया क्वेश्चन सॉल्व. इसके बाद कुछ नहीं करना है. Look at what he is asking. What is the ratio of EMI expenses in the year 2012 and 2015? Fine. 2012 को देखते हैं. EMI कितना है? This is 40% of x. यहां पर कितना है? 2012 में 15 में this is 30%. If this 2012 it's 40% of x, this 2015 this is 30% of y. It means that if you look at these two numbers, x I already know is greater than 2y. एक बार के लिए assume करके numbers मैं आपको समझाता हूं. Let's say x is 200 and y is 100. अगर ऐसे कुछ नंबर्स होंगे जबकि डिफरेंस और ज्यादा होगा क्योंकि x तो कम से कम 2 गुना है ना, और भी ज्यादा हो सकता है. फाइन. अगर ये x 200 है तो 200 का 40% कितना होता है? 80 होता है. अगर ये y 100 है, 100 का 30% कितना होता है? 30 होता है. यही EMI हमारे बनेंगे ना. अगर x की वैल्यू 200 और y की वैल्यू 100 हो तो ये फर्क देख रहे हैं आप कितना ज्यादा है. तो जो EMI का फाइनल रेशियो आएगा उसका प्रोपोर्शन तो कुछ ऐसा होना चाहिए ना, 8:3 जैसा. देखो पहली बात तो ये है कि ये 6:7 या 8:9 नहीं हो सकता क्योंकि x का जो 40% है वो y के 30% से कम नहीं हो सकता. तो ये दोनों आंसर तो सिंपली रूल्ड आउट है. डी भी रूल्ड आउट है, ये भी नहीं हो सकता. तो आंसर या तो नन ऑफ दीज होगा या 8:7 होगा. बट 8:7 जैसा रेशियो इसके लिए नहीं होगा क्योंकि ये तो बहुत क्लोज है. Whereas if you look at these two numbers where I've assumed and shown to you that when x is 200 y is 100, 40% of 200 is 80, 30% of 100 is 30. कितना ज्यादा डिफरेंस आ रहा है? इसका मतलब है कि जो आपका ये वाला EMI है, जो पहले वाला EMI है, ये कम से कम आपके 2015 वाले EMI का डबल आएगा. और कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता ना. There is nothing else possible. X is at least double of y. Fine. So 40% of x would be at least double of 30% of y. Am I understood? तो रेशो जो होगा वो 2 से बड़ा ही बड़ा होगा. इनफैक्ट बहुत बड़ा होगा, काफी बड़ा होगा. अब ये आंसर ऑप्शंस देखो, ये 8:7 जैसा आंसर ऑप्शन हो सकता है क्या? नहीं हो सकता. तो आंसर ऑप्शन क्या होगा? हैज टू बी नन ऑफ दीज. कुछ और आंसर हो ही नहीं सकता इसके अंदर. इट हैज टू बी नन ऑफ दीज. मैं इसको जितना आराम से आपको समझा सकता था समझा रहा हूं. रीजन समझने की कोशिश करो. ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट है. आप इसको 5 मिनट में 4 मिनट में सॉल्व करोगे. अगर आपको ये समझ में आता है तो आप इसको 10 सेकंड के अंदर मार्क करोगे. DI का और कुछ है ही नहीं. DI इज दिस इज DI. डेटा इंटरप्रिटेशन है. इसका नाम कैलकुलेशन होता, इसका नाम होता कैलकुलेशन ट्रिक्स अगर ये डेटा इंटरप्रिटेशन एनालिसिस नहीं होता. प्लीज ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस. You can do many questions like this. I'm not saying all, but this is the only way to crack DI. You want to solve DI, you do 5-7 questions, I'm okay with that. I am asking you to do all 15 questions in the test. Do you realize the difference? Okay, if anybody has not understood this, please watch it again. I cannot explain it further. I am moving to the next question. If you want, you can dislike the video. Look at this question now. Please try and do it smartly. Please try and do it smartly. I would not appreciate you doing calculations all. Do a bit of it plus try and do it smartly. We are here to discuss some smart tricks. We will not do mundane data. I'll not teach you how to calculate 68% of something. We'll try and just crack DI. Look at this question. Biswa, I am being patient, but I am also a human. At times it runs out. I still request anybody who has not got it to watch it again. I cannot explain it more elaborately. If you still cannot understand after going through the video 4 times, I would, what do I say, leave it, use the approach that's followed in most of the books. That would still give you the answer. I am here to, what do I tell you? Leave it. Ryu, you can increase the resolution of your screen. Look at this question. Try and give me the answer for this one. Okay, I can already see some C's. I am really happy. It's not as complicated as the previous problem. I mean, it's relatively much simpler, but I would still be interested in understanding your approach. D, no. The answer I'm already telling you. If my memory serves me right, answer should be C for this question. It's 22,550. The answer. Just look at your calculation again. Okay, I am starting to solve it gradually now, slowly. Let's assume the salary to be X for 2012 and Y for 2014. I am still reminding you this is not the approach that I follow in exams. I am using it to explain it to you. Once you get proficient in this, then you can eliminate these X and Ys and start dealing with them directly. This is just to understand the approach. Look at what is happening. The savings in 2012 and 14 are in the ratio 19:24. What percentage is saving in 2012? It's 19%. So can I say 19% of X upon, this is 8% 2014, 8% of Y is equal to 19 upon 24. I hope this would be fine with everybody. और कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. Fine. अब what it means is that if you look at this X is to Y, can I say ये percent वगैरह तो सब कुछ directly cancel हो जाएगा सीधा. X is to Y becomes 1:3. और कुछ होगा नहीं. 19 आपस में cancel होगा. 8 goes up here and it becomes 1:3. Now this Y is given to you. The total expenditure. एक minute, I think I have made a mistake here. Total expenditure, just a moment. I actually made this question, I think, just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. This is actually the salary. I wanted to write salary here. Think of it as salary and then answer. This is basically the salary that I wanted to write here. Otherwise the calculation will become complicated. I do not want you to get entangled in calculations now. Fine. So what I intended to write was salary in 2014 is 1,65,000 and which is given as Y. So once you have got X is to Y is equal to 1:3. Sorry for that mistake. Total से मेरे को salary की जगह I wrote total expenditure. What I intended to write was if the salary in 2014 is 165,000. So X is to Y is 1:3. Now if y is already given to you as 1,65,000, what would be the value of x? X would be equal to 165,000 upon 3, which is 55,000. This is very simple. If y is given as 1,65,000, one third of 1,65,000 would become 55,000 here. Fine. So that's the salary for 2012, which is the value of x. Now what do you need to calculate? What is the amount spent on transport in 2012? Where is transport in 2012? That's 41% here. So what I need to calculate here is, where do I write it? This is 41% of 55,000. That is the number that you need to calculate. I hope this is understood to all. First we calculated 19% of x, 8% of y, it becomes 19 upon 24, x is to y is 1:3, y is already given to you. You come with the value of x, which is 55,000. Now the transport value is 41% in 2012. Let me just erase this, a part of it, since you already know this. Okay. Now how do you calculate this 41% of 55,000 very quickly? What is 10% of 55,000? Again we are breaking this down to smaller numbers. 10% of 55,000 becomes 5,500. Fine. So what would be 40%? 40% would be equal to 4 times of this number. So this would be 22,000. Okay. If 10% is this number, what would be 1%? 1% would be, if 10% is 5,500, 1% becomes 550. Fine. So 40% is 22,000 plus 1% will give you 41%. So this number plus 550. So what do you get? 22,550, which is your answer, which is option C. This is C and nothing else. What you could have done directly here, only for those of you who can, just see through it, don't, tell me afterwards this is again very complicated. Just again an observation, this is the correct answer, all of you got it, I'm happy with that, this is fine. Just an observation here. Look at this ratio, 2012 and 14, this is 19 and 24. Look at this 19, here also this is same as 19, this is 24 and here it is 8. Now if you can understand this, otherwise you can completely leave this part. This 19 remains 19, but this 24 here becomes 8. This only tells you that x is to y has to be 1:3. Just think about it, all of you who are willing to put in an extra amount of effort, because this makes your job very easy. 19 is to 24, here it's 19, so 19% था, यहाँ भी 19 ही रहा, यहाँ ये 24 था, ये 8 हो गया. इसी से आपको पता चल जाता है या पता चल जाना चाहिए that x is to y becomes 1:3. उसके बाद में आपका ये जो कैलकुलेशन हमने थोड़ी सी करी थी, उसकी भी आपको जरूरत इसमें नहीं पड़ेगी. आगे चलते हैं. दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट जो मैंने अभी बोला. आई विल नॉट वेस्ट एनी फर्दर टाइम ऑन इट, जस्ट पॉन्डर ओवर इट. ये जो 8 और 24 का कनेक्शन था यहाँ पर इंपॉर्टेंट था, इसी से आपको पता चल जाना चाहिए था दैट y वुड बी 3 टाइम्स ऑफ x. 55,000 कैसे आया? 1,65,000 इज द वैल्यू ऑफ y. 1,65,000 इज द वैल्यू ऑफ y. So 1/3 of that becomes 55,000. Okay, this is the next question for you. For somebody who did not understand, please go through it again. Gurpreet, I'm happy that you are finding this approach good. If you actually want to score heavily in DI, this is the approach you need to take. Otherwise, you can pick any book from the market. They will all tell you how to solve the questions. Ankur, it's all practice. It's all practice. I'm trying my best to explain this to you. Fine, some people get it naturally, others have to work hard, but there is no rocket science in it which you would not get. Fine, practice it, watch it again and again, try and understand what I'm trying to communicate to you. You will start getting most of the questions in DI almost mentally. Mohit, I'm not angry, yaar. I mean, I'm trying to explain something here, you are showing thumbs down. Shivangi, yes, ponder means to think over it seriously. Suyog, it needs practice and nothing else. I'll be happy if you understand when I'm explaining it to you. Fine, that also is a great thing to do. Okay, Samir is the moderator today. He's become very serious, saying that any non-academic comment and you are blocked. Smarty, Anu, I took 19% because it was not 20%. If you look at it carefully, it was 19 only. It was slightly above 20. Soma, if you can understand it, I can assure you, you will crack DI with flying colors. That's the only way of cracking DI. I want you to crack DI, not solve DI. Fine. इसका आंसर बताइए मेरे को. It's an easy one. It's an easy one. Kavita, I'll always give you the shortlist logic. I do not believe in giving you extensive calculations. Give me this answer. This is the easiest of the three that I've discussed. Expense on transport in 2015. Where is transport here? Transport in 2015. This blue part is transport. How much is this? This looks like what? This looks like 30%. This is simple. How do I do a question like this? I know that all of you would get it very easily. All of you are smart people. But how do I get it easily? A very simple way of doing it. It's talking about the ratio of his salary in 2013 to the expenses on transport in 2015. Let me assume that his salary in, listen to it very carefully. I will not repeat it. Let's assume that his salary in 2013 is 10 rupees. An increment of 100% every year. Great guy. किसे मिलता है? चलो 10 से 2014 में will become 20. So if it was 20 in 2013, it will become it was 10 in 2013, it will become 20 in 2014. What would it become in 2015? It will become 40. So 10 से 20 हुआ, 20 से 40 हो गया. अब इस 40 का 30% क्या होगा? ये तो आपको बहुत जल्दी से निकालना आता है. 30% of 40, I will not write it, it's 12. So basically expenses on transport in 2015, if I assume this 2013 salary to be 10, is 12. This is 12. And what is his salary in 2013? This is 10 because I assumed this. So many times in DI you would not take X and Y, you will take some random numbers. That will make your calculations easier. So what I did was I started with taking his salary in 2013 as 10, 2013 salary 10, 2014 salary 20, 2015 salary 40. I do not think anybody would have a problem with that. Then you come to the next step. Transport expenses in 2015 is 30% of his salary. 30% of 40 is 12. So that are the transport expenses in 2015. So what is the ratio that you need to find? His salary in 2013, which I assume to be 10, and this number 12. So 10 upon 12. What is the answer? 5:6. That's the answer for all of you. Fine. I knew that all of you would get it. This is a slightly easier one. Not that you cannot get the tougher ones, but all of you will get it. It's just the approach. So if you are not following this approach, follow this. Assume a random number, a number that makes it easier for you to calculate the percentage changes, and then apply the trick on those numbers. Can I move forward? Okay, I'll move forward. I'll not listen to you today. So that's the next question. Now tell me the answer of this question in a very, very smart way. In a very smart way. Ram Kumar, I am just repeating some parts in Hindi for the benefit of all. Please do not worry. Please do not bother. I am explaining in English only. You will not miss anything. Just check your approach for question number 3. If you did it by some other method, start using this one. Yes, Sony, I gave an increment of 100%. I was thinking of 500%, then I thought it will be a little too much, so I gave it an increment of 100%. Rohit, crack this question first. Give me a very good answer here. Mohit, but this will require a lot of practice. I'm still warning you. If you want to follow this approach, this will require a lot of practice. You will probably get 1 out of 5 correct in the beginning, but then you start getting a strike rate of almost 100%. And if you can crack DI, SBI is gone. Suhas, you could have taken 100 as salary as well. 10 I find easier. You could have taken 1, 10, 100, whatever works for you. Ryu, I am not a magician. I mean, in fact, so many people do not like my methods. I am just trying to work for you. Give me the answer for this one. Give me the answer for this one. Do not use any calculations. No, I would now force you to do it my way. Do not use any calculations. Can you think of a smarter way of doing it? Calculation से आप लोग कर लोगे मुझे पता है. Can you think of a smarter way of doing it? Abhinav says C. C looks good. Wonderful, Suhas, you understood that method. You can use 100, you can use 1, you can use any number. Pick up a number that's most comfortable, that saves that critical 10 seconds for you. Okay, give me the answer for this one. I'll proceed to explaining this one then. The transport expenses are these ones. This is here and here is this one. Okay, many of you are saying C. I'm very happy you are saying C. I am now interested in knowing how you arrived at C. So you will not be able to explain it through this chat window. I'll explain it to you. Now look again, listen to it very carefully. Wonderful, you got the answer. Look at my approach now. The transport expenses in 2011 and 12. So we are comparing for these two values. So I'll assume the salary for 11 as X again as I've been doing till now, and the salary for Y as 2012. Fine. The transport expenses in 11 and 12 are in the ratio 1:5. Now look at transport expenses here. Can I say that this is like 39 here and this looks like what, 41? But can I broadly say that 39, 41 they are almost the same in terms of percentage? So when in terms of percentage, basically can I say this is 39 and this is 41? Roughly इसको ना 40 मान लेते हैं, चलो एक मिनट के लिए. I'll explain the difference later. Again, this is a shortcut approach. I'll not using the conventional method. You can do it yourself. Fine. दोनों का लगभग बराबर है. दोनों approximately 40% है. So can I say 40% of X here upon 40% of Y? Look at it very carefully. Is 1/5. That's what's given to you. 39 को मैंने approximately 40 माना. 41 को भी मैंने approximately 40 माना for the ease of understanding. Fine. तो इसका मतलब हुआ कि 40% of X upon 40% of Y, it's already given to you as 1:5. What it means is, in other words, that X is to Y would be approximately equal to 1:5. यही मतलब हुआ ना इसका. If 40% of X upon 40% of Y is 1:5, X is to Y has to be 1:5. और कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. There is no other possibility. Now tell me, is this okay with everybody? Can you type a yes so that I can proceed, move forward and explain the next step to you? Is this okay with everybody? Please type a yes. I'll understand that this is okay. Approximately 40% of X, approximately 40% of Y, the ratio is 1:5. It means that X is to Y, the ratio is approximately 1:5. Is this okay with everybody? Please type a yes. I will understand and I will proceed to the next step in this question. Yes, I can see a few yeses. So can I just remove this part here? Okay, I am removing this part and just writing that X is to Y. Again, mind it, this is almost exact but not the exact values. That X is to Y is 1:5. It means that the salary in 2012 is around 5 times the salary in 2011. Alright, so let's proceed to the next step. Now look at the EMI expenses, the expenses that he expects us to calculate. What are the EMI expenses in 2012? If the EMI expenses in the year 2011 are rupees this, so the EMI expenses in 11 are given to us. Now compare the EMI expenses here and EMI expenses here. Can I say in terms of percentage, this block here, this red block here in 11 is around half of this block? So can I say in terms of percentage, though I know that this is around 20%, लिख ही लेते हैं, चलो फिर आप confuse हो गए. So this is 20, this is 40. So this is around 20% of X and this is around 40% of X. So can I say that in terms of percentage, here it's double for 2012, 20% of X, EMI expenses in 11, 40% of Y, EMI expenses in 2012. It means that the factor that will affect it this time would be 2:1. I mean, सोच के देखो ना, जो पहले तो Y 5 times वैसे ही ज़्यादा है उससे, Y is 5 times the value of X. Then when you are talking about EMI expenses, X में I am just taking 20% and Y में I am taking 40%. So what is the cumulative effect of it? One is that effect of into 5 and the other effect would be of into 2. So what is the total effect? Around into 10. There is no other way ना. For example, I'll take numbers to just to explain it to you. अगर आप assume कर लेते हैं कि x की वैल्यू यहाँ पर 100 है and इसकी वैल्यू यहाँ पर 500 है. Fine, just look at these numbers. What is 20% of 100? That's 20. What is 40% of 500? This is just to make you understand. You do not need to write this. This is around 200. How do I get an effect like this? Why? Because here I am just taking 20% in this place and here I am taking 40%. So एक तो पहले ही into 5 वाला फैक्टर था और एक into 2 वाला फैक्टर और लग गया. So resultant क्या हुआ? जो EMI expenses 11 में थे, EMI expenses for 11, if it's 20, EMI expenses of 12 would be 200. So that's around 10 times. So what it basically means is that the EMI expenses, the number that I am asked to calculate, would be around 10 times of this number that's given to me. What is this number here? 12,850. What is the only number that's close to 10 times of 12,840? There is just one number. Cannot be determined. इसका आंसर हो ही नहीं सकता. It cannot be the answer. And that number is option C. I'll mark the answer directly. I would not do any calculation. Had there been a other number that is close to 10% or 10 times of this number, a number like 1,20,000 or something like that, then it would have been confusing for me. But when I look at this, there is no other number that's in the vicinity. 43,000 too small, 151 too large, 92 again small, cannot be determined, cannot be the answer. The only option possible has to be option C and nothing else. So now I have explained in great detail. Whoever wants to repeat can repeat. I am, have got slightly different today. I am saying it every step because you are finding it slightly difficult. But the way I look at it mentally when I look at this question is this. Look at this approach very carefully. You will get the answer in 10 seconds only. This is 1:5. Okay, just a moment. This is 1:5 here. If you look at this number, this ratio is 1:5. And 40 and 40 are equal. So it means 5 का factor सीधे आ जाता है. उसके बाद में this, look at this 20 and look at this 40. एक 2 का फैक्टर और आ जाता है. It becomes approximately 10 times. This is 12,850. Approximately 10 times of that would be the answer. The only option possible is option C, and that becomes my answer in this case. There is nothing else in this question. If I calculated, I mean, it actually makes me nervous. I mean, I'll have to do some really lengthy calculations to arrive at this exact number 116411. पता नहीं मैंने पहले भी कैसे किया था, खुद का बनाया हुआ क्वेश्चन है मेरा ये. But if you can see through it, you will get the answer directly without doing anything else. If you do not understand this, I am repeating, please go through it again. This is the crux of DI. You do this, you get the answers fast. And most of these sets that I am discussing today have been either been picked up directly from last year's SBI paper or have been inspired from them. I went through the sets, I tried and understand what kind of questions these people are asking. This is what they have started asking now. This is much like CAT DI, but this is what it is. Now it's not calculation intensive, it has become a lot logical these days. Alright, let's look at the last question of this set now. So that's the last question of this set. Again, try doing it by this approximation method only. दीपक बहुत ही बढ़िया. अगर आपने इसको ऐसे अप्रोच किया था, आई एम रियली रियली हैप्पी विद यू. आपके डीआई में इतने नंबर आएंगे कि आप सोच भी नहीं सकते. वेंकटेश, अगर इसमें नन ऑफ दीज होता देन विल बी अ प्रॉब्लम. या तो मैं उसमें चांस लेता या फिर उसको छोड़ देता. मैं इसको कैलकुलेट नहीं करता. आई वुड नेवर हैव कैलकुलेटेड दिस क्वेश्चन हैड आई बीन इन योर प्लेस, हैड आई बीन टेकिंग द एग्जाम, एंड नन ऑफ दीज इज एन ऑप्शन. आई वुड आइदर लीव इट or I'll mark one of the two as the answer option, the way Sameer told you in all those approximation questions, because I'm not wasting any time. Even if I take a chance between two options and I'm just giving 10-15 seconds to the question, that's okay with me. Vaibhav, for closed questions, there is a way. For example, in this last question, let's go back to it for a moment for all of you who want that something extra. Again, a food for thought for all of you who want something extra. For anybody who's already finding problems, just ignore this. Had there been an option like, I'm just changing option D, not for anybody who is finding it difficult already, for those of you who want to achieve a higher level in DI, if I, let's say, just change this option D and replace it with, I'm just writing the number here, 1, 2, 9, all of you already know the answer, but let's say this is your option D. How would you eliminate it like this? Just think about it. Just think about it. I will not doing it now. Had the option 4 been 1,29,000, how would you have eliminated it? There is another beautiful way of doing it, only for those of you who are comfortable with this approach. Otherwise, go to question number 5 that we are discussing. Do this now. You are saying 21:40. Give me a smart approach to this. I do not want any calculations. Probably answer match bhi nahi hoga because these are approximate answers. There is no none of these, so I put in approximate answers there. Give me a very beautiful, smarter way of doing it, and give me the answer through that. Akshita, if I try to complete it faster, what do I tell you, yaar? I mean, I'm already explaining it like that. Please bear with me. Have you found out the answer to this question, Akshita? Okay, you are saying option D, option D, option D. Many of you are saying option D. I am very happy. I think option D is the answer. We are again talking about 11 and 12. Savings, where are the savings? Savings is this. EMI is this. Again, we'll take it as X and that as Y, though you should not need it ideally. Pankaj, what is your answer? You used my method. You should not get the correct, incorrect answer, then बेइज्जती करा दोगे आप अगर गलत बताया तो. मेरा मेथड यूज करके अगर डी आ रहा है तो देन आई एम हैप्पी. D, I'm getting so many D's using the smart method only. No other method I need. Already I'm explaining that to you. Explain कर रहा हूँ. कृष्णा, ये आसान इसके लिए भी लग रहा है आपको because you have now moved forward. When I gave you question number 1, that was probably the easiest of them all, but then it was a new approach for you. That's why you are slightly confused. All right, I'm explaining that to you. Look at this now. The savings in 11 and 12 are in the ratio 21:12. Fine, 11. Look at 11 now. Where are the savings? Savings are this green part and this green part. This is 21:10. Can I say that this already looks very similar, this ratio? Just look at this carefully. I'm just talking about approximations here, nothing else. This looks very similar. So can I say X and Y have to be almost equal? Look at this ratio. What does it look like? If this is 2, this is 1. बराबर ही है ना लगभग. So this is already in the ratio 21:10. When would it happen? Let's say X is equal to 100 is equal to Y. ये सब बराबर है. If X is equal to 100 is equal to Y, if you calculate this percent of X, this percent here, and this percent of Y, they would be in the ratio of 21:10. क्योंकि X and Y के absolute values तो are equal already. So it means with this data, this first statement, the savings in 11 and 12 are in the ratio 21:10, and looking at this is also 21:10. I can directly infer that X and Y would be approximately equal. I am saying not exactly equal, they will be approximately equal. This is step number 1 of solving this problem. Now look at the second part. What is the ratio of EMI expenses in 11 and 12? Where is EMI expense? This is EMI expense. Again, does it look like? Can I say that EMI expense here, this part looks almost the double of this part? Now if X and Y are equal, it means salary in 11 is same as salary in 12, and this percentage is half of this percentage. It means what is this? ये लगभग 20 के बराबर लग रहा है, and this is around 40. Absolute value से मैं मतलब ही नहीं है. I just know that in terms of percentage, EMI expenses in 11 are half of EMI expenses in 12. It means NX and NY बराबर है. तो it means that your final answer has to be somewhere around 1:2 and nothing else. और कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. 1:2 के आसपास ऑप्शन देखो कौन सा है. Cannot be determined तो मेरा आंसर होगा नहीं. 40:21 not possible, 1:1 not possible, 1:3 not possible. The only possibility is 21:40. If you can understand this, even if I give you a slightly closer option like 21:25 or 21:27, you should not look at that. ये तो options में कुछ है ही नहीं. ये तो सिटर है. मतलब the moment you understand it कि मेरे को पहले स्टेटमेंट से I realize that the salaries for 11 and 12 would be equal. दूसरे से मेरे को पता चलेगा it's 20%, that's 40%. Answer has to be close to 1:2. What is the only option close to 1:2? 21:40. That's your answer. 10 seconds. It's actually 10 seconds. But for that 10 seconds, you would probably need to spend 10 hours first trying to understand DI. ये कैलकुलेशन नहीं है जो आप 6th, 7th, 8th स्टैंडर्ड में करते थे. दिस इज स्लाइटली डिफरेंट. अनफॉर्चुनेटली आवर एजुकेशन सिस्टम डज नॉट टीच अस ऑल दीज थिंग्स. दिस इज एक्चुअली डेटा एनालिसिस. फाइन. Again, we'll repeat the same part. If somebody did not understand it, please watch it again. I'll strictly, highly recommend this approach only for dealing with questions like this. That's the only thing. All right, let's move forward. I'll give you the next set now. So that's the next set. Look at this. Anil, I am trying to do a great job. Only you would make me do a great job. If you guys do well, then I'll be happy. I mean, Subhendru, I understand it's slightly less than 40. We deal with approximate values because most of the options that you get in DI questions are far apart. If I get close options in 2 questions out of 15, I'll leave those 2 questions. I simply do not want to calculate. मैं बहुत ही आलसी आदमी हूँ, मुझे calculate करना अच्छा नहीं लगता. Use your brains and do it fast. Abhinash, check for yourself from the last year's paper. The first question of this thing has been picked exactly from SBI PO's last year's mains paper. I'm not creating these questions अपना यहाँ पर ढोल पीटने के लिए. This is the kind of options that you get in exams. And if you get tougher options, though I admit that probably that one question in which you require to calculate, I have not put it here because that's not my objective of the session. I want you to understand how we do these smarter questions, and most of the questions are smarter questions. You would get the answer directly without doing any calculation. Shubham, please practice this. और नहीं आएगा, और कोई तरीका नहीं है. इस डेटा को देखो एक बार. Anupam, what do I tell you in this? You're saying this is quite different from what others teach. I have all the DI books that I've seen in the market, nobody teaches you these things, which is the only way to teach DI. All of you ask you to take a mechanical approach. So what I recommend to my students is use books only for checking the questions and for checking the answers. Do not go by their approach. If you go by their approach, you would not be able to do anything in DI in the exam. Probably in the earlier avatar of SBI PO, yes, but in what is coming these days, you will not be able to do anything. In fact, all these things are not mentioned in most of the CAD books as well. If you want, you can try something, but DI has to be optimized. Please do that. Okay, are you okay with this one? Okay, let's look at this data. I'll just explain it very briefly. So this is about the tourists in a city in the year 2016. Now there are 2 or 3 very special things about this data that I want to explain to you. How many quarters are there generally? Not generally. How many quarters are there in a year? Quarter का मतलब क्या होता है? 3 महीने का span. So how many quarters are there in a year? If you talk about 1 year, there are 4 quarters. Fine. So here there is slight ambiguity in the data. I have put it deliberately here. It says percentage breakup of 3000 domestic tourists in 2016. And if you look at this, this is first, second and third quarter. Fine. So the fourth quarter is missing here. So basically this number 3000 here is not the number for 2016. Why? Because if you add this 42, 30 and 28, it gives you 100. And that's the meaning of a pie chart. If it's a pie chart, it always has to add up to either 360 degree or 100%. So basically the data given to you is of just the first 3 quarters, 1, 2, 3. And the percentages are 42 for first, 28 for second and 30 for the third quarter. Fine. So 3000 people visited, domestic tourists visited this place in the first 3 quarters. Fourth quarter data is missing here. Likewise, 1800 people visited, international tourists visited this city in 2016. The breakup is this 35, 25 and 40%. So that's the only thing that I wanted to tell you here. Don't get confused. Fourth quarter data is missing here. All right, let's move forward. Okay, I'm erasing this. Now this is the first question there for you. Give me, again, this is a simple one. I'm sure all of you will just pounce upon it and give me the correct answer very quickly. You are asking, how do I practice? I've already mentioned quite a few times. Use GradeUp for practice. 1, 2, pick up any compilation of previous year's actual questions. They'll do 2 things for you. That's the closest that you can get to the actual exam, number 1. 2, you will realize that I'm not lying. You get questions like this in exams. All right, please do that. Give me the answer for this one. This is a fairly simple question. You do not need anything else. Akshita, what are you asking? I didn't know. Which test series is good? I have seen GradeUp test series. That's good. You can take that. You want something else as well. Test series is a very reasonably priced product. You can go for something else as well. But GradeUp आप ले सकते हैं. मेरा देखा हुआ है. It's a good test series. Okay, 600. Many people are saying 600. एक बार question पढ़ लेते हैं. You have already understood the data. If we include the fourth quarter, so it's talking about fourth quarter now. The percentage of domestic tourists in the third quarter will become 25% of the total domestic tourists for the year. This is a very simple question. If you look at the current data, out of 3,000 tourists, how many have come in the third quarter? Third quarter is this 30%. So 30% of 3,000, this is how much? 900. Very simple. Now, if we include the fourth quarter, it becomes 25%. This 900. If this becomes 25%, what would be 100%? Again, very simple. This will become 3600. 25% is 900. 100% becomes 3600. So it means that if we include the fourth quarter, the total number of domestic tourists for the year become 3600. Now you can answer every question. What was the question? What was the number of domestic tourists in the fourth quarter? It's very simple. This number is given as 3000 for the first 3 quarters, and including the fourth quarter is 3600. So 3600 minus 3000 gives you 600. Again, just to comfort you, this was an actual SBI PO mains question last year. मेरे ख्याल से नंबर थोड़ा बहुत इधर उधर होगा, ज़्यादा डिफरेंट बिल्कुल नहीं हो सकता. This is an actual question. Isn't it a sitter? Again a 30-second question. In fact, इसमें तो कोई trick भी नहीं चाहिए. A very simple one here. So the answer for this is option A, 600. I'll give you the next question. Do that quickly now. This is again very simple. Do it quickly. Naman, please check your answer. It's not 900, it's 600. It's a very simple question. Do not get it wrong. Do the second question now. Yeah, 600 is the correct one. One more time. I'll do it mentally then. How do you do it? 3000, 30%. This is 3000 for the first 3 quarters. Here, this number. 30% of 3000. It gives you 900, this number. This 900 becomes this 25% here. If 900 is 25%, what is 100%? It's 3600, 4 times of that. So it means that the number of domestic tourists in this year is 3600 for all the 4 quarters. For the 3 quarters, it's given as 3000, 36 minus 3000, it's 600. 600 becomes your answer in this case. Tavishi, it's affecting the total. That's why the total is becoming 3600 now, including the fourth quarter. For the first 3 quarters, we already know is 3000. So the difference is 600, which is the number added for the fourth quarter. That's the question that I gave you after that. Please do it. This is again very simple. I want the answer very, very quickly now. .3 you are saying, 33 you are saying none of these. Okay. International tourists, we are looking at this one. Fourth quarter is 150 more than the international tourists who visited in the second quarter. Simple calculate karte hain. Where is the second quarter here? Second quarter is this quarter. Fine. 25% of 1800, this number. How much is this? I can do it directly. 450. Fine. If fourth quarter, so this is second quarter number. This 450. International tourists in the second quarter. So what would be the number of international tourists in the fourth quarter? 150 more than that. So 450, this 450 plus 150. How much is that? 600. So number of international tourists in the fourth quarter becomes 600. यहाँ तक तो सबको clear होगा, कोई problem नहीं होगी. What was the percentage of the international tourists who visited in the fourth quarter among the total international tourists of the year? Fine. इसमें आप एक छोटी सी गलती कर रहे हो. For all the people who are saying 33.33, this fourth quarter number becomes 600. Fine. This number 1800 here is given for the first 3 quarters. This is only for 1, 2, 3. If the fourth quarter number is 600, this fourth quarter number has to be added to 1800. This 1800 has to be added to 600 to give you the total number for the year, and that is 2400. So this 2400 is the total number when you include the fourth quarter numbers. तो आप उस पे percentage calculate करेंगे ना. You will calculate the percentage on this 2400 only. So this 2400 becomes the total number, and you have to calculate the percentage of international tourists who visited in the fourth quarter. Now fourth quarter का number आपको already पता है 600. So 600, this number on 2400, how much is this? 6 upon 24, how much is that? That's 25%. So your answer becomes option A, which is 25%. You do a very silly mistake. You can do a very silly mistake in this question if you are not careful with this. You can do this 600 by 1800, which will give you 33.33, and there is none of these as an option as well. So just be very, very careful with this. Shivangi, it's not 33.33, it's 25. I'm explaining that you calculate on the complete year, not on the first 3 quarters. 1800 is the base for the first 3 quarters, so the base becomes 2400. 600 upon 2400 gives you 25%. That's why that's the answer. So Ranjit, just be careful of that if you got this wrong. Alright, that's the next question. Do it now. दीपक सिंह, आई विल डू अ मिसिंग डीआई एज वेल टुडे. आपको देखेगा वो कितना आसान होता है, कुछ मुश्किल नहीं है उसके अंदर. इज नथिंग डिफिकल्ट इन मिसिंग डीआई. That's just a, you know, that's been overhyped by certain people. I do not know why. It's very simple. Surjendru, you need to do a lot of practice. I already told you, practice on different platforms. That's the way you get it right. GradeUp पे बहुत कुछ सारा मटेरियल पड़ा हुआ है, उसका इस्तेमाल कीजिए, उसको यूज करिए, ये सारी चीज़ें ठीक होनी शुरू हो जाएंगी. Okay, Mishi, wonderful. Do this next one now. Try and find an elegant method. Otherwise, whatever method works for you, give me the answer. When you consider the total, you consider for the entire year. The figure that was already given to you was for the first 3 quarters. At times, in fact, I left that ambiguity here deliberately. At times, the questions are slightly ambiguous. You have to figure out what works best in that particular case. So the number was clearly apparent to you. It was very, very apparent, clearly visible to you, was for the first 3 quarters. So you add the 4th quarter number and then the number goes up. Ankur, you avoid silly errors just by practice. So I got the first correct answer. I am very, very happy. Sony, you got it right. It's 149%. Wonderful. I got the first one. Okay, now so many 149s. Wonderful, wonderful guys. Very good, very good. I have been a little harsh on you today. All right. So give me some reason to, you know, cheer you up now. Okay. 169. How 169? Let me look at the question. Second, third quarters. Domestic in the second and third quarters. Where is domestic? Second, third. It's 58%. Okay. International second, third is 65. All right, 149 and 149. I'll just show you the calculation. This becomes 58 by 65 and to how much is this? This is 5 by 3. Fine. Another thing, I know that all of you would get the correct answer here. Another thing that I wanted to tell you, just listen to it very carefully. Let's say, इसका इस question से कोई मतलब नहीं. I'm trying to explain something to you. Let's say there are two quantities A and B. A is 150 and let's say B is 90. Fine. Please listen to it very carefully. This is again a time saving tool. If somebody asks you by what percentage is A greater than B, fine. The conventional approach that we used to do in school is A minus B को हम पहले निकालते थे. Fine. A minus B gives me 60. Then I'll do 60 upon 90 into 100% and I'll get the answer as 66.67%, isn't it? That used to be the approach. Now you will not do this. The moment you get a question like this, you will do this. 150 upon 90. What is 150 upon 90? This is 5 by 3. Fine. 5 by 3 is how many units is the numerator greater than the denominator? So the numerator is greater by 2 units than the denominator. What is 2 by 3? 2 by 3 is 66.67%. That's your answer. So you are eliminated the task of doing all this, and you do this in all the DI. There is no other way to do DI. You just look at 150, 90, put that upper number in the numerator, 150 upon 90, 5 upon 3. 5 upon 3 means a difference of 2 units for every 3 units. 2 upon 3 is 67.67. That gives me my answer in this case. Very simple. So I'll use the similar technique here in this question as well. Now look at this. Just give me a moment. Let me just clean this up. Okay. So that's there in front of you. So what have I done here is saying the difference in domestic and international. So I have put domestic on top here, and these are the international ones, and I arrive at this number. What is this number? 58 into 5 I think is 200 and in fact ये और cancel होगा क्या अभी देख लेते हैं चलो. And this is 65 into okay cancel हो रहा है ना. Let's do this. This is how much? This is 13. So it becomes 58 by 39. Fine. If you look at this 58 by 39, what you need to calculate is by how much percent is 58 bigger than 39. Can I not say directly that it looks like a difference of around 50%? Yes. So the numerator here, in fact in this case they are precisely asking what is numerator as a percentage of the denominator. So 58 by 39, because half of 39 added to 39 would give me approximately 58. It means that this is around 50% bigger than the denominator. And what is the only option possible here? It has to be 149%, because the numerator here is around 49-50% greater than the denominator. So I would not arrive at the exact answer. What I will do is 58% of 3000, 65% of 1800. I get 58 upon 65 into 5 by 3. The moment I write this, I realize that this is 58 by 39. I realize that this is around 50% greater than the denominator, and I straight away mark the answer as 149. When would I have a problem in a question like this? I would have a problem marking the answer directly like this when one of the options is 148.2%, 149.7%, 149.1%. But believe me, I do not see options like this in most of the questions. If it's there, मैं तो छोड़ दूंगा इस क्वेश्चन को, बाकी आपके ऊपर है. In most of the questions you would not get options like that. Can I move forward? Okay, that's the next question for you. Again, get this right. This is an easier set. This is exactly what appeared in SBI PO mains last year. Now you can imagine how easy that was. Okay, that's the next question. Give me the answer now. Domestic tourists in the first and second quarter. First and second is 70%. Yes, what is it like? Okay, 66.67. There is just one catch in this question. We are talking about average number of domestic tourists. So total domestic tourists would be 42 plus 28, that's 70%. 70% of 3000 is 2100. But average means we'll have to divide by 2. So 2100 by 2 gives you 1050. That's the number. So that's the average number for first and second quarters for this given data. Now look at this 35% of 1800. That's very simple to calculate. That's 630. So basically you need to calculate by how much percent is 1050 greater than 630. Now 1050 upon 630. We will again use that same approach. What is this? This is 5 by 3. I do not subtract 630 from 1050 and take base as 630 and then calculate. It's a waste of time. 1050 upon 630 same as 5 by 3. 5 by 3, a difference of 2 over 3. What is the answer? 66.67%. So that's the answer in this case. That's option A in this case. Yeah. Average का मतलब होता है mean. Mean means mean of A and B is A plus B by 2. This is it, simple. Okay, let's move forward. Look at the next question. There's nothing much to explain in this one. So that's the next one for you. Again a simple one, get this right. Yes, 66.67% is the correct answer. Yes, 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 wonderful. Get this one right. This is the last question of the set, and then I'll briefly discuss a set with missing DI. Probably you will not have the patience to last much longer. I definitely have. अविनाश अगर आप वैसे कर सकते हो तो कर सकते हैं, सीधे भी कर सकते हैं. I get what you are trying to say. Wonderful if you can think like that. There is no limit to the level you can optimize DI. If you can do that, do that. Abhilash, DI is not just interesting, that's an understatement. It's amazing and it gives you very, very quick marks. Okay, give me the correct answer to this for this fifth question now first. Okay, you are saying D. I think D is the correct answer. Can I explain this? It's a simple one. Language थोड़े ज़्यादा है. It's slightly long in terms of reading, but it's very simple again. And all these are actual questions. Some are inspired, some are actual. This was actually an easy set, which could easily have given you so many marks in the mains exam last year. If we include the fourth quarter of the year, all of you have already read the questions. I will not read it. The crux is that the second quarter numbers will become 16.67% of the total international tourists. This is second quarter here. This is 25%. So 25% of 1800 is 450. But this 450 now becomes, after the addition of the fourth quarter, 16.67% of the total number. Fine. What is 16.67%? Again, you need to remember this. Again comes the use of reciprocals. This is 1 by 6. So what is happening is that this 450 is 1 by 6 of the total number of international tourists in 2016 if you include the fourth quarter as well. Listen to it very carefully. So 450 into 6. How much is that? Is it 2700? I think yes. Fine. So this is 2700. So including the fourth quarter, this 1800 becomes 2700. Now look at the question. This is the data that's given to you. It says by how much is the number of international tourists in the fourth quarter greater than the average number of domestic tourists in the first 3 quarters. Average number of domestic tourists. First 3 quarters का जो total number है, that's 1800. Average का मतलब क्या होता है? Sum divided by whatever is the number of quantities. So average for the first 3 quarters would be 1800 divided by 3. So 1800 divided by 3 gives you 600. So 600 is the average for the first 3 quarters. So 600 is the average for the first 3 quarters. इधर लिख देते हैं इसको 600 को. And for the fourth quarter, the number you already know is, because it has jumped from 1800 to 2700, 900. So what you need to calculate is by how much is 900 greater than 600. 900 upon 600 is what? Again the same approach. 3 by 2. 3 by 2 means what? It's 1 unit over 2 unit. 1 unit over 2 unit would be option D, which is 50%. You get this right yet again. There is absolutely no confusion. There should not be any confusion, at least in this set. The last one was slightly more complicated because we used some advanced concepts of DI which we used to analyze data, but this is simple. Still, I would urge you to use these methods only and do not go with the conventional methods. Otherwise it will become very, very difficult for you. What happened? Okay, 1 minute, just a second. Oh yes, you are right. You are right. You are right. In fact, I just created the question before the session. Okay. I'll check it. By how much is the number of international tourists in the fourth quarter greater than the average number of? Look, I made a mistake. You could also have made a mistake. What a stupid mistake. So look at this like this. If had this been international, this would be the answer, because for international this number is 600. If this was domestic के case में this is 3000 by 3, so domestic का जो original number था that was 1000. So in that case it will not be an increase, it will be a decrease of 10%. Fine. So had this been international in place of domestic, the answer would remain the same, 50%. Had this been domestic, the one that was originally written, it would be a drop of 10%. For all of you who got it, in that case the answer would have become none of these. Fine. I understand it, Shivangi. I took the international average. Fine, because I intended to write it like this. In a hurry, I wrote domestic here. Fine. So if it's international, the answer is 50%. If it's domestic, the answer becomes a drop of 10%. Yes, I understand. So in case of domestic, for the answer for the question that was originally written would be a drop of 10%. The answer for what is now written, international tourists, the answer would be a jump of 50%. Lucky I got it, I corrected it. Okay, the answer would be minus 10 if it's domestic. The answer would be plus 50 if it's international. Okay, debate khatam ho gayi na? This was the only concern, right? Okay, let's move forward. So that's the next set for you. Look at this data first. Yes, Pankaj, आप पूछ सकते हो अगर यहाँ पर कोई डाउट है तो. Okay. Glad you could learn something new. Okay, I'll tell you this week's schedule. Tomorrow we'll be doing input output, and then again day after tomorrow it would be a class on ratio proportion. Again some topic on reasoning, and Friday no, Wednesday will not be ratio proportion, it will be profit and loss, and Friday it would be simple interest, compound interest. Again very important topics when it comes to arithmetic. And Tuesday and Thursday would be some topics of reasoning. We'll upload all the complete schedule by evening. Okay, let me just repeat it because so many of you have problems in this. I'll just erase this. Look at this. This is domestic. Okay. 25% of 1800 for this number is 450. This 450 becomes 16.67%, which is 1 by 6 of the total number of international tourists. Fine. So the total number of international tourists becomes 450 into 6 is equal to 2700. I do not think anybody would have a problem with this. So this number for the first 3 quarters was 1800, now it's 2700, the difference is 900. It means that 900 is the number added for the fourth quarter when it comes to international tourists. Fine, so this is it. Now look at the difference. By how much is the number of international tourists in the fourth quarter? This 900 is greater than the average number of domestic tourists in the first 3 quarters. Look at the domestic tourists. This is 3000. Domestic tourists are 3000. 3000 for the first 3 quarters. So average would be 3000 by 3. How much is that? 1000. So what he is asking is, by how much is the number of tourists in the fourth quarter greater than the average number of domestic tourists in the first 3 quarters. So basically they are asking 900 is how much percentage greater than 1000, but 900 to 1000 se kam hota hai na, so it would be minus 10%. So the answer here would be none of these. So I have explained what exactly is written on the screen. When I framed this question, I had international tourists in mind. Fine. So that's why I gave the answer accordingly. So if in place of this domestic you take as international, which was earlier explaining, the answer becomes option D, which is 50%. So I hope it's understood to everybody now. I'll move forward and show you the next set. So this is that missing DI that you are desperately waiting for. This is exactly the same piece of data that appeared in SBI PO last year, to the best of people's memory. So this is memory based. Look at this first and then I'll explain it to you. Yes, Rajeshri, it's 90%. 90% means a drop of 10%. ऐसे 90% होगा ना? Yes, Deepak, I'm moving on. Okay, now that's there in your screen. Deepak, you were waiting for missing DI. That's missing DI. That's there in front of you. Look at this question. I'll explain this data set to you now. Given below is the percentage breakup of the students of 5 colleges P, Q, R, S and T by the number of seminars attended by them in a particular week. So these are basically 5 colleges. The names are given as P, Q, R, S and T. Fine. If you look at these 5 colleges, there are some percentages given over here. These percentages. So what it's trying to say is that their students attended either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 seminars. So some people attended 1. For example, if you look at P here, so this 20% means of the total students of P, 20% attended 1 seminar, 15% attended 2 seminars, 24 3, 4 8% and 6 seminars 15%, and this data is missing for number 5. Now it's not very clear from the data set if there are some people who did not attend any seminar or who attended 7 seminars, but we are not concerned because we are only concerned with what is given to us, what is being asked to us in the actual question. Now if you realize, if you look at the questions in the data set, it does not matter in the end. What I need you to understand now is that this number should add up to 100 ideally, but even if it does not, and if it's not asked in the question, it does not matter. So I'll not fill in the table now. I'll just go to the question straight away and try to understand what he is asking us. Fine. Let's move forward and look at the question now. I hope this is understood. This line is for Q. It means that of the total people of college Q who participated, 16% attended 2 seminars, 25% attended 3 seminars, 18% attended 6 seminars, and it goes on like this. And the values for 1, 4 and 5 seminar people are missing. So this 16% here means that of the total students of college Q, 16% students attended exactly 2 seminars. I hope this data is understood. Fine. Sumit, if you missed this session, please attend it again from the beginning. You will not understand anything if you join it here. Fine. So I am showing the first question. Just try and attempt it. Fine. Without having a prejudice in your mind against missing DI. It's a very, very simple question. Please look at this question now and try and attempt it. It's a very simple question. Do not have any prejudice in your mind as to it's difficult or it's, it's different, it's new. There is nothing difficult in it. Look at this question first. Read the question. 37, 37, 37, yes, all of you are already giving me the answer. Isn't it a simple question? Look at this. Let's say I assume that the number of students from R are R and from S are S. So at most 3 seminars. Who are the people who attended at most 3 seminars? People who attended 1, 2 or 3. So what is this total number? 12% plus 20% plus 25%. So this is 57%. So basically when I am saying at most 3 seminars, so when I am saying at most 3 seminars, that's 57%. So 57% of R is what? The total number of students in the college or who participated from the college, whatever, I am not concerned. Fine. Is equal, this is equal to the number of students from college S. Now we are talking about college S. And which students from college S? Who attended at least 3 seminars. So at least 3 seminars would be 3, this number, 4, 5, and 6. What is this? 25 plus 15 is 40. 40 plus 22 plus 12, it becomes 74. So this is 74%. So 57% of R is equal to 74% of S. So that's what I get from this first line. Now it's very simple. So basically what it tells me is that R by S here becomes 74 by 57. Fine. I hope all of you get this part at least. Now if the total number of students from college S is 114, fine, college S is 114, it means that R would be equal to 74 by 57 into 114. Fine, this is the value of R, which becomes 74 into 2, which is 148. Though we do not calculate these values at intermediate steps, it's an additional step. I am just showing it to you for the sake of clarity. So the students in R are 148. What is the question now? Find the number of students from college R who attended exactly 3 seminars. Now this is college R and exactly 3 seminars is this row. Fine. So what is that number? 25%. So 25% of 148. How much is this? This is 37. Fine. There is just one suggestion in this. Just one suggestion in this. When I calculate this R here at this step 74 by 57 into 114, you do not need to do this. You can just write 74 by 57 into 114 into 25% means 1 by 4. So at times the fractions cancel themselves. Fine. So do not calculate the intermediate steps. Just keep writing the chain in this and then you arrive at the exact answer. But isn't it very simple? I mean, there was absolutely nothing in this, and as far as I remember, this is an actual question. The exact same numbers, exactly same, everything remains exactly the same. So this was easier than the other DI sets. All have been inspired from the actual paper, so this was actually easier. I'll show you the next question now and probably give you the rest 3 for homework. Look at this question. Give me the answer for this one if you can understand this. I'm sure you will understand this as well. Look at the second question and give me the answer. Okay, I hope all of you have already done this. I have already started getting a few correct answers. I am really glad you could do it so fast. Wonderful. Look at this. Look at the data first. Number of students from college P who attended at most 2 seminars. At most 2 seminars means people who attended either 1 or 2. So what is the percentage? 20 plus 15. So it's 35%. So this would be 35% of P. Fine. People who attended at most 2 seminars is equal to the sum of the number of students from college T who attended 1 seminar, it is this 15%, and number of students from college T who attended 6 seminars, it is this 5%. 15 plus 5 is 20%. So basically it tells me that 35% of P is the sum of 15 plus 5% of T. So it becomes 20% of T. That is the data that's given to you. Rest all would take care of itself. So it becomes P upon T is equal to, can I write it directly now? 20 by 35, which is same as 4 by 7. Now what is it asking? The total number of students from college P is what percent of the total number of students from college T? ये 4 7 का कितना परसेंट होता है? ये तो रेसिप्रोकल में आपको सीधा ही याद है ना? What is it? 1 by 7 is 14% के पास. So the only possible value is this 57. In fact, this is an exact value. 57.14 is 4 by 7. So if you remember this value, you get this straight away in not more than 10-15 seconds. right? So that's the correct answer for you. Again, a very, very simple question from missing DI, the so-called dreaded missing DI. So there is absolutely nothing in it. You'll get all 5 correct. So now what I'll do is just capture a screenshot of the rest of the 3 questions, because I think we have already overshot. Fine, just capture the screenshots, paste your answers in the chat window and all, or I'll discuss it at the beginning of the next session. Just the last 3 questions, I'm sure you'll get them right as well. Fine, just showing the screenshots for 5 to 7 seconds, just bear with me. So that's the next question, just capture it. It's question number 3 in this set. Some are actual data, some have been made by me for you. Fine, since it's based on memory. This is question number 4 for you. And that's question number 5 for you. All right, I hope all of you have captured it. I'll move forward and come here now. Fine. All right, so there I am back on your screen. Fine. So this was it for today. The last 3 questions I did not do. We already exceeded 2 hours. Many of you were getting impatient. I do not want that. आज का session वैसे भी थोड़ा सा heavy हो गया. We learned a few new concepts. Believe me, this is the core of DI. I've been repeating it, reiterating myself at the cost of sounding stupid here. You get this session, you get this last session, all the arithmetic and DI would become a cakewalk for you. I request all of you who are actually serious about this exam to watch these sessions as many times as you want, but get them right. I would not be able to explain better. Fine. So there is no use me taking another session. Somebody said, sir, एक और ले लो. मैं कुछ उसमें नया नहीं explain कर पाऊंगा. That's my limitation. Whatever I could explain, I have explained. In this one, in that one. Fine. I made a couple of stupid errors here. Sorry for that. I hope आप जज्बातों को समझोगे और उन errors को माफ कर दोगे. Fine. Lost my patience. Somebody did something very, very stupid. I lost my cool there. Please try and understand this is a classroom. Please try and understand this is a classroom. We are trying to simulate a classroom. I am not getting any money from this. We do not sell maths app. We do not put even any advertisements in on our YouTube channel. Have you realized that? We do not earn from there as well. It's not that we are philanthropists, but what we are doing currently is actually philanthropy. It's actually altruism in its truest, purest form. Fine. We do have intentions of making money, but we are not doing that now. I do not know if we'll be able to continue that for long or not, but we are doing it for SBI PO. Extract the maximum out of me and Samir. Now it's up to you. I mean, I do not know if it strikes to you or not. We are not making money through anything. इसमें हमारा कुछ भी फायदा नहीं हो रहा है. If I am asking you to do it because I want you to desperately crack this, I will only get happiness if you crack this exam, all of you. Now some naysayers would say, sir सारे कैसे करेंगे? यहाँ तो 10-15 हज़ार लोग हैं, 2,000 सीट है. आप अपने बारे में सोचो ना यार, 2000 सीटें आपको सिर्फ एक चाहिए, 1909 सीट्स एक्स्ट्रा हैं, छोड़ दो उनको. I do not want you to just crack the exam. I want you to crack it with flying colors. That's why I'm not teaching you stupid, silly things that's there in the books. If you want to go the extra mile with us, please be with us. Otherwise, you can go watch whatever or study from whatever. I really don't care. This is not a revenue stream for us. Fine. I will teach this high level DI. I'll teach high level arithmetic. I would want every student of mine, every serious student of mine to just you know क्या बोलूँ, बस इस एग्जाम को फोड़ देना है. ठीक है, यही हम इसी जज्बे के साथ में इसको कर रहे हैं. अगर आप लोग सपोर्ट करोगे तो चलाएंगे, अगर आप लोग को लगेगा ये नहीं वर्क कर रहा है तो बीच में बंद कर देंगे. बट हम लोग कमिटेड हैं कम से कम अगले 3 महीने के लिए. उसके बाद में मुझे नहीं पता क्या होने वाला है. Fine. So this is it. I'll end this session. Tomorrow's session would be an input output. We'll upload the schedule for the next 4 sessions either by morning or late at night today. This would be it. I'll just remove myself from the screen here, and again a request, download Maths app, practice all these numbers from there. There is no other way to master these reciprocals and all. Do practice a lot of DI, practice it from previous papers, whatever papers you can lay your hands on, and practice from the grade up platform. There are a lot of practice questions available over there. Practice is the key. There is no magic potion that you would drink and you would get it right in a jiffy. It will not happen. It will never happen. With me also, though it comes a bit naturally, I actually worked hard on it when I was preparing for CAT. Fine. This is it. I'll end this session now. If you have any queries, anything, you can just write to us or write in the chat box. Practice this approach. This is actually going to make you absolutely crack the data interpretation section of the test. Fine. So I'll call it a day. I'll take your leave. We'll see you day after tomorrow. Samir will meet you tomorrow for input output. Good night.